Well, kaiju when I was growing up was a huge genre. My generation grew up with literally an invasion of Japanese culture. When I was having my childhood, I was having exactly the same pop culture than a Japanese kid of my age would be having in Tokyo, Kyoto, anywhere. And I grew up with Osamu Tezuka, the TV series of Tsuburaya. I'm old enough that I went to opening weekends on some of the kaiju movies, War of the Gargantuans, and some of the Gameras, and so forth. And they created a spectacle and a sense of adventure that I had not seen since. And there is a beauty to a movie that can be not just an action film that is supporting an ideology or a war idea that is really an adventure. And kaiju movies had that scope that eliminated all sort of moral boundaries. The kaijus are so huge, they are almost like forces of nature. And at the same time when I was growing up, I'm old enough that I was basically at the right age when what I would say arguably is the first mecha anime was launched, which is Tetsujin 28, which in America was known as Gigantor. And I was a kid when Gigantor started. And I loved giant robots so much, I would go into sort of a frenzy as a kid. And I would draw giant robots all the time in my notebooks, and I would section the robot inside. So I would have a bathroom, a bedroom, a screening room. There was always a bathroom and always a screening room. I was pretty cautious about that. And when I came out of Hobbit and I landed in LA, they sent the outline for Pacific Rim, and I read it, and I immediately said, surely there's a movie already. I mean, let me think for a second. And I thought, and there's never been a live action movie ever of a giant mecha fighting giant monsters. And I just got on the car, went to Legendary, and that was it again.
And was it because the technology just wasn't there, do you think, at the time? Or?
I don't know if that's it. I think that it's a miracle that Pacific Rim exists, because normally this is the type of idea that we on the storytelling side are pushing the studios, and at the end of the whole process you end up with, oh well, the hero has to have a this or that, and you end up with a diluted movie. What was great is this was a project that was already alive and on its way at the Legendary. It was a pitch, and I was able to develop it, and for about 3 years I waited horrifyingly for the other shoe to drop, for the moment where I would get the phone call and say, this is too extreme, this is too crazy, this is too wild. It never came. This is the best creative experience, and I think part of the reason there are no more kaijus is not for lack of stories and desire, but for the fact that they require a huge investment. And the Western cinema has never been heavily involved in that genre. Eastern cinema has.
There's a sense of scale in this movie that is, I don't feel like I've watched that kind of operates on this kind of size.
Ever.
Did that present certain unique challenges in terms of creating?
Yeah, I mean the movie was, for me as a director, the first thing was to understand, for example, that in this movie I was going to have a few very precious close-ups. That my tightest shot was going to be a 2-shot, because everything was so huge around. The area where they lodged the Jaegers is the size of approximately 8 football fields. So just to think of filming that space immediately presents that challenge. And then I wanted to make a movie where the fights and the spectacle had never been seen. That you would go, I've never seen this, or I've never seen it in this way, you know. And immediately I gathered a group of artists that were equally insane, and we started to riff on this. And I had a list that I've had in my heart for roughly 44 years since I was a child, where I was, wouldn't it be great if they did this? Wouldn't it be great if they did that? I would love, I mean, there's nothing I loved more when I was a kid, like miniatures, monsters destroying tanks, monsters swatting jets like flies, going through a building. I mean, that's sort of a revenge of the kids. When you're a kid and you're in an outsized world, the kaijus are like your biggest fantasy because they are crushing the world, and it's a beautiful spectacle because it carries no moral weight in the real world. You're not seeing an army killing another army. It's not an ideological war. There's no moral load like in a kaiju movie. You go with the bad kaiju or the good kaiju. It's almost like the enjoyment of a giant wrestling match. You know, like where you can root for the bad guy as much as because there is no consequence in real life. There's no fear in you or in anyone that there will be a kaiju rampage in imitation of a movie like that. You know, it's truly, truly the most beautiful, liberating kind of spectacle.